Hi, this is Pavan from KINDUZ Business Consulting. We will go through the third part of the introduction to Lean Six Sigma. This is a series of 8 video presentations that you will find on the Google Video Network as well as voh.com, and more importantly the KINDUZ Consulting Network. In this presentation we will go through the define phase of the DMAIC cycle that we discussed in the first and second videos. If you want to access any of these videos, you can visit http://kinduz.ning.com. This is the website for the KINDUZ Consulting Network. On this website you will have access to various tools, templates, frameworks of Lean Six Sigma, as well as videos. You can also network with a lot of other experts on Lean Six Sigma, as well as post questions and get answers on topics with regard to Lean Six Sigma, career management, including retail, strategic management, business process management, and other areas that might be of your interest. So we'll jump into the defined phase of Lean Six Sigma. So from an overview perspective, in the define phase we identify what is important and what is it that we're going to improve. In the measure phase we find out how are we doing today, and also if required go back to the define phase at this point of time and define the improvement that we are hoping to make in a more objective fashion. The third phase is the analyze phase, where we analyze what is going wrong and what is stopping us from achieving our full potential. In the improve phase we understand what needs to be done, what are the one or two most critical items that if we target we're going to be the most successful in bringing about the improvement that is required. In the control phase we focus on how do we sustain the improvement that has been brought in place, so which means how do we guarantee the performance. So what's the define phase? Now in the define phase we have a specific set of inputs which are listed down out here. Now the inputs for any initiative that is business focused, that is customer focused, is to understand what are the strategic priorities of the customers of the business. What you also do is to identify the specific business processes or the steps within a particular business process that you want to focus on. You also identify what is the expected improvement that we're going to achieve. Let's say the goal is to increase the sales of a particular vertical by 40% or 50%, and you also identify who is the team that is going to be involved in this entire initiative, as well as the people like who is the sponsor, who are going to be the team leader, who are going to be the members of the team. So these are the inputs that we're looking for. So primarily some strategic inputs. We're looking at identifying the business processes, the people, and the improvement expectation. What you do in this define phase is you identify improvement opportunities. So for example, the goal could be improvement in sales, or goal could be improvement in customer satisfaction, or it could be improvement in the customer satisfaction by reducing defects in a certain kind of a product that you are, or service that you're delivering. Now when you identify improvement opportunities, there could be a lot of improvement opportunities that you can identify. What is very important is to prioritize the one or two most important improvement opportunities that you want to focus on to bring about the largest business benefit. So that is the first step of the define phase, where you're understanding, okay, if I have to improve my business or customer satisfaction, these are the 20 things that we can do, but what are the two most important things, or one most important thing that I would better focus on. You also develop a project team charter, which is a group of people from different areas of the business process that will be involved with you in leading this initiative and making sure that the initiative is successful. You build an effective team. You identify the customers and customer requirements. Now, this is very critical. Any business process you take, and as we have discussed in the previous presentations, Lean Six Sigma is about being customer focused. It starts and ends with customers, and therefore we identify who the customers are and what their requirements are. This is one of the most important steps of the define phase. There might be a situation where you might initially define the improvement initiative in a particular way, but after you speak to your customers, you might realize that the way you defined is not the way the customers want, so you might completely change it. You also identify and define the process that is going to be improved. So we're going to look at an example of one of the tools called as Scopus that you will use to define and map the process to be improved. So what are the outputs that are expected? We are looking at a team charter document. The expected outputs are an action plan to define the problem statement, to define the process that is involved, and at least a high level overview plan about how you'll take this initiative forward. You have your prepared team. You identify your customer requirements that are the most critical for your business, create process maps, and identify some quick win opportunities that will have the most benefit to your business. One of the tools that you can use as a part of your project identification or initiative identification is what you call as a critical to business drill down. Now, let's say the goal of your company or the initiative that has been given to you is increasing profits. You could do it through multiple ways, by increasing sales and at the same time maintaining the current level of resource investment. You could do it through reducing expenses. Now, how could you increase sales? You could probably expand your markets, you could add some new markets, or you could add new service lines. Now, in a similar way, how could you reduce expenses? You could reduce it by reducing warranty costs or reducing defects. You could improve productivity, and you could rationalize offices. Let's say your company is located in 20 places. You could maybe close down 10 offices in the same city and move people to the 10 other offices within the same city. So you save the cost in terms of energy costs, you save traveling costs, telephoning costs, a lot of other things. So if you are given a project to make a certain improvement, you have to identify how you could do that. And you could also identify where is my biggest problem. Now, maybe in a company X, the biggest amount of costs today maybe because this huge amount of defects which are resulting in warranty issues. So if 40% of your money goes into taking care of warranty issues, you might just want to focus on that. So instead of picking up increase profits as the biggest project, you might just say that, look, my initiative is to increase profits by reducing warranty costs from, let's say, $10 million to $1 million in the next 6 months. So the critical to business drill down helps you to identify what is the key thing that you want to focus on when starting off with an initiative. Now, this is very critical because a lot of times people take up initiatives or projects that are very tough to achieve, that are beyond their capabilities, and they fail. And when they fail, they fall. So it's very important to set expectations, identify the initiative that you're going to lead in a very careful way. And that's when something like this becomes very critical, where you don't stretch yourself very thin. You know what you're getting into, you know what you want to focus on to get the maximum business benefit. So the critical to business drill down helps doing that. The second tool in the define phase is, which is a very critical tool, is the Kopis tool, where there are 5 things that we identify. The first one is identifying who your customers are. So let's say you have a company that produces paper. Now, who could be your customers? Your customers could be individuals who buy paper for their home use or the home office use. They could be corporate professionals because they want to buy paper for printing, for writing purposes. You could also have hospitals or educational institutes who buy paper from you. So you have to identify all the customers for a particular business process. So assuming if you want, the project is to improve the paper quality, it's very important for you to first identify who the customers are in the first place before you go ahead and make some improvements, because the kind of quality that each customer might be looking for might be different. It's very important to understand not only the customers, which you find out here, but also what each customer expects as an output. So the corporate professionals might be expecting a much higher quality of paper than the educational institutes, hypothetically speaking. So that's the kind of analysis that needs to happen. So what is a certain set of customers expecting as the output? Once you identify the customers and what their outputs are, you identify what is your current process for developing, let's say, the paper. So what are the steps you follow? You get in the raw material, you probably wet the raw material, you crush the raw material, process it, package it, and then transport it. I mean, at a high level, these could be your steps. But let's say you are responsible for the processing unit, and you've been given the project of improving the paper quality. Well, if your control is only within the processing unit, you wouldn't be able to control the paper, the quality. You wouldn't be able to control the variables that impact the paper quality in the other areas, right? So either you will need access to the other process areas, which would mean getting those people involved in your team of the initiative, or you might just say, look, I do not have access to those process areas or those departments, so my scope of the initiative is going to be focused only within the processing unit. As we discussed before, this therefore helps you set expectations. Now, if your organization does not give you access to your end customers, there is no way you will be in a position to understand what is the outputs that the end customers are expecting out of the paper quality. So you will not be able to verify whether the improvements you have made are being felt and perceived in the right way by the end customers. So that's where it becomes very important for you to set expectations. If you're not getting access to that end customer, saying that don't hold me accountable to the final outcome from an end customer's perspective, because I do not have access to them. First, in understanding what the requirements are. Two, in terms of whether they're happy after the improvements that are being made. Now, if you don't set these expectations right initially, there's a high probability you would end up in a failure, which nobody would want to. I mean, everybody loves a career. So the COPIS tool helps you identify who are all the stakeholders, whom you need to get into the team, where you should draw your scope, what are your limitations, what are your constraints. Now these things are obviously dependent on your current level, the kind of access you have, the kind of sponsorship you have, and the kind of mentoring you have. So it's very important for you as a person to do this analysis when you're leading any initiative or taking up any challenge anywhere in your professional career. So once you identify the customer, the outputs and the process involved, then you identify what the inputs are. So the inputs could be for paper development water, it could be some certain chemicals that soften the wood, it could be wood itself, it could be if you are using recycled paper then you use used paper. So you identify all these inputs, and then what you also identify is who are the suppliers of these inputs. Because if your suppliers don't support you, there's no way you're going to be successful making the improvements. So you will have to get the suppliers involved. For example, if you are doing a project that focuses on the delivery time of the credit card receipts or credit card bills, one of the suppliers for you would be the postal department or the courier company, because they would need to ultimately deliver the the credit card bills or receipts. So, but if you don't include them in the entire process or the entire initiative, you might do everything, but if the issue is with the postal department, the credit card bills or receipts are not going to reach the customers. So you have to identify who the suppliers are for certain kind of inputs. So that's the COPIS tool, and that's why it's very critical. There are a lot of other tools that are used in the define phase to understand customers, like the voice of customer, like the Kano analysis, quality function deployment. You could also use tools like the Porter's 5 Fours model, the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award, to understand where you stand vis-a-vis others in the market and whether your business is going to be sustainable or not. Obviously, there are templates for team charter, identifying what the quick win opportunities are. You could, if you're focusing on how you market your product, you could use tools like the BCT quadrant, etc. So there are a lot of other tools that are taught in the define phase that help you understand what should be your business goal, how you should identify and define your the improvement that you want to achieve, and also understand what are the constraints involved, the entire team that needs to be involved, who the customers are, what the customer requirements are. A lot of times people, the professionals in the industries, when they're given a challenge or a goal, they go ahead and start implementing it. But what they fail to realize is there has to be a certain amount of planning that is required, which is planning around who the customers are, what their outputs are, what the requirements are, what's the process involved, who are all the people to make this initiative successful, so you can set the right expectations, etc., etc., etc. That's what Lean Six Sigma teaches you. It teaches you to plan better. And most of the times, the leaders are the people who can plan better and make the right decisions at the right time. So that's the define phase. In the next phase, in the next presentation, we will learn about the measure phase, and we will learn about some of the tools that are used in the measure phase of the Lean Six Sigma life cycle. So what you've learned right now is how you define a business problem or a business improvement goal, help identify customers, what their requirements are, identify how you can scope your improvement initiatives, understand how your success depends on people who are involved with you. So we'll see you next time, and go through the measure phase. Hope you have a great day.